Basically, we have a referral, assessment, and placement process. Youth are referred to the targeted outreach program through their parents, through the schools, through the police department, the court services, juvenile services, sometimes even guidance counselors or pastors or neighborhood leaders. They'll give us a call, the targeted outreach program, and make that referral. We will in turn contact that parent and the family to set up an assessment so that we can meet with the parent and the child to determine the actual interests as well as the needs of that child. The reason that we include the child in the assessment process and look at their interests and their needs is because it's very easy to place a child in a program and tell them you will attend this program. But one of the unique things about the targeted outreach program is that we find out what they like to do, and we place them with a provider who's going to cultivate that interest and turn into something positive. It's going to be a totally positive experience for that child. We take it a step further because after we place that child, we monitor their progress for the duration of the program. As long as they remain in that program, we're receiving reports from that particular provider on a bi-monthly basis to let us know whether that placement is working. If we get a progress report and it does not look like it's working out for that child, we will go back to the assessment to look at those interests and needs and place them with one of our providers, which we have approximately 47 providers located throughout the city, and they offer an array of services.
I know that the parents that are watching the program would be very interested in some of the things you've talked about. So who's eligible for this program?
Currently, the Targeted Outreach Program serves youth between the ages of 6 and 17.
And what's the referral process?
Basically, we have a hotline that has been set up. The number is 926-6000, and that line is available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. A live person will actually answer that phone, and a parent or anyone wishing to make a referral will actually speak with one of our case managers who will schedule them for an assessment. Or you can go to the Keeping Our Kids Safe website at www.keepingourkidssafe.org, and the referral information is listed there as well.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's talk about your program now. Jump back over, and what kind of things are you working on?
In Newport News specifically, since ours is kind of a multi-regional thing, but in Newport News specifically, I do a lot of parent education workshops, particularly on the elementary and the middle school level. We find that violence and gang activity tends to take hold at an earlier age. It's starting to be a culture that's not just teenagers, and it's moving into elementary and middle school. And we still find that there's a lot of parents who don't know what the signs are and the indicators and what some of the prevention strategies are. So we're working on a lot of that with our middle school and elementary schools in the area. We're also focused on identifying 2 middle schools that we're going to implement the GREAT program, which is Gang Resistance Education and Training, under the Department of Justice. And we've actually learned that the 3rd generation of that program is actually the best and has the most influence on our young people. So we are working with Dr. Kilgore and a couple of principals to identify 2 middle schools that we're going to implement that in the Newport News area, and then work from there in identifying whether or not that program works after a year or 2 and whether or not it's something that we should continue with. Finally, we're working on a $9 million grant from the Department of Education to work on comprehensive violence prevention. We have a natural consortium in place between the schools and the police department that naturally work together, but we feel that's a need to bring in the community aspect of that. There's a lot of organizations and faith-based going on in Newport News, but they very rarely work together. And what happens is you may have organizations that pop up here and there sporadically to try and deal with some of the youth issues, whether it be in the Southeast neighborhood or in Denby. But what happens is you'll have so many varied programs, the results you're not able to see as quickly. So we're trying to pull in the community effort to make sure we're all working together for the same purpose and around the same programs. We'll see, I think, more of an impact in the community and our schools if we do that well.
Okay, all right. And you mentioned something a little bit earlier that I think our audience would definitely be interested in, if you can talk about it a little bit. You said that there are indicators, or you see indicators that lead toward this gang affiliation or gang the gangs.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Could you talk about those?
Indicators pretty much are, just to put it in perspective for our audience, is things that as these indicators pile up, that means your child may be more at risk for being involved in a gang. So if there's truancy very often where your child is skipping school, they're losing interest in the school or activities that they used to be interested in, new group of friends. If your child has been hanging out with the same group of friends for, 10, 15 years and all of a sudden they have a new group, they have a particular interest in one or two or more colors, particularly if their mom wears it and things like that. They're carrying large amounts of cash. If your child has $1,000 on them and you're not giving them that as a weekly allowance, that's also another indicator. Carrying weapons. Child should not be owning guns or knives or any other weapons of the sort. What we're saying is as these indicators build up, it's a warning sign to parents, and that's why Susan's program is so important to what we do, is because we now have a referral process for people who do realize those indicators. You're not waiting until they get into the juvenile justice system or get arrested for participating or committing a crime even. Now we have an intervention here in Newport News that parents and teachers and anyone can take advantage of for the kid before they get to that last resort.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Those are excellent tips. Now, how can the audience members get other information about the program?
We have a website, which is www.preventyouthviolence.org. It goes into detailed background and listing of gangs locally, how they get started, some of the signs and indicators that you'll see even in their graffiti. Some children may have them in their notebooks and things like that. We also have other resources in Newport News. In addition to the targeted outreach, there's a number of other resources that we have listed on our website under the City of Newport News. There's child parenting lines, parenting classes that people may want to take advantage of. Being a parent is hard. Asking for help shouldn't be. So we want to encourage them to use those resources on that website.
Okay, all right. Now, Susan, I know that you are also a board member of the Peninsula Crime Line.
Yes.
And that is a program that, of course, everybody knows, the 1-888-LOCK-YOU-UP.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that program, tell us a little bit about what you do with that program and how you help youth.
Well, I've been a member of the Peninsula Crime Line board for a little over a year now. And one of the things that we realized upon my becoming a member is that